Hello, everyone, and I am so glad you're here. I hope you had a lots of learning experience here with the first MLA lesson. This is MLA lesson part two, getting down to the nitty gritty. This lesson actually talks more in specifics about MLA 8. While the first one was a little bit more general and you got to learn some things, this one actually probably has the answers to some of the questions that you want to ask or are probably afraid to ask or don't know if you actually need an answer to. So here is something that's a lot more specific. So let's go ahead and get started here. So in the last lesson, we learned the last name first, first name last. This is extremely important to learn because every citation does this. So the first name that is listed in a citation is last name, first name. And every other name after that is first, then last. Again, I don't know why it's like this, but it is. Then we played with the MLA 8 citation worksheet last time, and we used that, and it was very helpful to try to start putting citations together and learning how to put citations together. We understood the difference between quotes and italics, and when to quote things and when to put something in italics, and that's tied to containers. If something is a container, it's in italics. If something is inside of a container, it's in quotes. And then we started learning to write our own citation, and I asked you to write a citation for our book, and I asked you to write a citation for an item inside of the book. And we talked about this in class. So we had a lot of things in the first lesson. Here's what to expect in this lesson. We're going to continue practicing writing citations. I think the best way to learn MLA 8 is just by writing as many citations and as many different citations as possible. Again, MLA is a language, and so you need to practice the language. We're going to learn about writing citations with more than one container. And that is going to be extremely interesting because as of right now, you know how to write an MLA citation with one container. Now we're going to use two containers. How the citation changes depending on the source. And so this is going to be really interesting. We're actually going to have a special guest helping us with that one. And then we have in-text citation, and this is what goes inside of your actual document. That's why it's called in-text citation. You may have heard this being called parenthetical documentation at one point. Those are the exact same things. So here's what you're going to need for this particular lesson. Of course, pen and paper, because why? We're taking notes. We're doing the Writing Today book again, so we're going to need that. You're going to need an index card, and you're going to need your MLA citation worksheet. You probably got a copy of this at the library, or I've given you a copy in class, or you've probably printed out a copy, so you're going to need it. Now that you've done that, let's do something a little bit more challenging. Yes, you can use your MLA worksheet for this as well. It's very useful for everything, so you can go ahead and use it. In this presentation, go ahead and as when I'm done with the instructions, pause it and click on the link for the article here. And it's going to take you to an article online. I want you to cite that. What would the citation look like? I want you to try your best on what you think that would be. Post the answer in the discussion group in D2L labeled citation from the online article. And don't forget the hanging indentation. MLA, oh excuse me, MLA is one of those things that you have to do step by step. It is not something that you can learn one part and then not learn another part and still be okay. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. It builds upon itself. So at this point, I'm going to say, if you haven't seen part 1 of this, stop right now. Go back to D2L and go to part 1. Go and listen through it, do the activities, and so that you understand it better. If you want the opportunity to go back to the MLA Part 1 lesson, go ahead and do so now. You can go ahead and pause here and try to understand it. Then come back to this picture and take it from here. So here's our special guest who's going to help us with a part of our wonderful exercise here. Lady Gaga. Some of you may be fans, some of you may not be fans. Whether you're a fan or not is a moot point. But Lady Gaga can be helpful with writing our citations. So let's just say you wanted to write a citation for one of her albums, Art Pop, the actual CD, that thing that you're holding in your hand. Yes, I'm probably dating myself, but I used to listen to music on CDs. So the actual CD, the thing that you put in your hand, the little silver disc there, if you were to cite that, write an entire citation for that album, it would look like this. LadyGaga.artpop, streamline / Interscope, 11 November, NOV, period, 2013. I want you to notice something here. Notice that it's Lady Gaga and not Gaga, Lady. When it is a stage name like that, you're going to write it regular. You're not going to do last name, first name, last. That's only for actual names. So Lady Gaga is not her actual name. So it's just Lady Gaga instead of Gaga, Lady. So this actual citation, very, very basic, right? You can probably write this a lot better today than you could yesterday. This is one container. This CD is just one container. So this is easy peasy, right? But what if you used Spotify to access the music? Now we have a little bit of a complication, right? And this is why. You're listening to an album, that's one container, on a streaming service. It's just two containers. And a streaming service is like a database. That means you're going to need two containers. Yes. Whoa. What? Two containers. And if you look on your MLA 8 worksheet, you can actually see that there is space for two containers there. So, if you were to cite the same album, the same songs, the same everything, but you used Spotify, this is how you would make that citation. Now, I do have to apologize for the formatting here. I tried very much to do a hanging indentation of this, but alas, PowerPoint was not responsive. So I want you to realize that this citation is a hanging indent. Though it does not look like it, in my heart, in all our hearts, it's a hanging indentation, all right? So you still have Lady Gaga, not Gaga, Lady, but Lady Gaga. You still have the name of the album, which is in italics, and because it's a container, right? And then you see Spotify, and Spotify is in italics because it's a container. Then you have the actual link to it, and this is the permalink, and this is, you literally could copy paste it and it would take you right to this album. So there are two containers here, and we have to give the location, the permalink, whenever it's available, and that is the difference between container 1 and container 2. So pay attention, little monsters. I'm going to point this out one more time. Where you get the information is just as important as the information itself. So, if you listen to Art Pop on the CD versus the album on Spotify, it makes a big difference on what the citation looks like. Remember that MLA is a language. Yes, just like Spanish or French or English, right? You want to communicate as much as you can about the sources. Here, you're communicating where you're getting the information. This is important because if you're using the sources from the library, like the databases, things you find in databases, and some database names are Credo or academic search complete. If you use that, or if you do a Google search, more than likely you will have a second container in your citation. Seriously, I would highlight this in your notes. Oh, but I know that you are confused, and it's okay. MLA can be confusing, so let me see if I can unravel this for you. If the information you are citing is from the original source, that means it's from the actual CD or the magazine or the newspaper, whatever. If it's from the original source, you're probably going to have one container. More than likely, you'll have one container. But if you're accessing the information from a source that it's not original, say like a database, then you'll have two containers. So a good way to remember this is thinking about Lady Gaga. Spotify didn't make Lady Gaga's album. That's just where you're listening to it. The original source is that CD. That's how she made the album, and that's how it originally got to people. You're happening to listen or receive the information from the database, from say like iTunes or Spotify or Amazon Prime or Google Play. So, if you need a visual, this I think is going to nail it for you. Original source is the first container. The not original source, or where you're probably accessing it, it's the second container. Pretty easy, yeah? So here's another visual to help you understand it. If you have a periodical, like a newspaper or a magazine, that's an original source. If you found that information, say on the periodical's website, which can be a database, or JSTOR, or somewhere else, or even Google Scholar, because some of you love using that as well, that's a secondary source. That would be your second container. So you have all this information, right? Container 1, container 2, this appeared here, this appeared there, where does everything go? So I want you to look at your MLA 8 worksheet, and I want you to point to where it says container 1. All right, where it says container 1, that's where all that information is about where the article or information originally appeared, whether it's the CD or the website or the newspaper or the magazine or the journal, whatever. All that information in container 1 is about where it originally appeared. Now point to container 2 on your worksheet. I know you're probably not doing it, but do it anyway. Okay. Container 2 is where you found the information, like iTunes or Spotify or Academic Search Complete or JSTOR. So let's go ahead and do another practice. Now remember that article from the New York Times from a couple of slides ago? You actually used it as a practice, and you went to D2L, to the discussion, to post what you think the citation is going to be. I want you to go back to that article. Now that particular article has two containers, and I'm not quite sure if you saw it when you originally were citing it, but that actually has two containers. So if you look, there's actually two containers there. On an index card, I want you to write the citation for that article that includes both containers. You can go ahead and use the worksheet to help you. Don't forget to write the hanging indentation and put your name on the index card. Bring it to class next time because I want to see it. Okay? Let's move on to in-text citations. By far, this is where people are like, what? I mean, we were just working on the works cited page. Yes, but in-text citations is when you are telling the person who's reading your paper where you got the information from, and that's important too, right? It tells the person that this information came from this certain source that is listed in the works cited page. So the in-text and the works cited page, they work in conjunction with each other. It's not two separate things. It's one thing that works together. They're symbiotic, right? That means you can't have one without the other. And it's called in text because you literally find it inside the text of your paper. And by doing this, this is how you give credit for words and phrases and ideas that are not yours. And I put those in caps because, ladies and gentlemen, I want to avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism is a not good thing. Plagiarism actually will lead you to failing a paper very quickly. So it's okay if it's not yours. You're borrowing this information to create new information, but you got to say where that information came from. So in-text citations will help you. So let's talk about how they look like, because you may or may not have seen them out and about. So let's talk about a scenario here. Say you're writing a paragraph about tuna. I love tuna, and I again apologize that so many of my examples include food. So tuna. I'm writing a paragraph or a paper on tuna, and I'm using information from an article from the Washington Post website, and it's called How America Fell Out of Love with Tuna. I've included the link here, so the hyperlink is right there in yellow. I'm going to use my MLA 8 worksheet to write a citation, and here it is. Again, poor Microsoft did not allow me to do a hanging indent on this slide. So let us pretend there's a hanging indentation here, okay? So I went ahead and wrote my citation. I want you to see how there are two containers here. The first container is Wonk blog, which is where the information was housed. So it's in italics. And then the second container is WashingtonPost.com, right? So this is my citation. This is what I put on the works cited page. So then, as I am writing about tuna, I write this wonderful little paragraph. At one point, there are 85% of Americans 85% of Americans kept a can of tuna in their cupboard. Such was the demand for fish. However, as America's diets changed, so did their desire for tuna. Experts also attribute its demise to health concerns like mercury poisoning, concerns about dolphins, and the increasing price of tuna. Guys, I'm a smart person, but I'm not this smart. Obviously, this is not my information. I did not poll Americans and find out that 85% of Americans kept a can of tuna in their cupboard. I am not one of those experts that say that the demise of people not wanting tuna is because of diets and health concerns. I am smart, but I'm not this smart. So this is not my information, obviously. This is actually paraphrased from the article, right? So this isn't my info. I've got to cite it. So this is how I have cited it. Note that entire thing, that entire mini paragraph is there. And at the end, I have put the last name of the person who wrote it, and it's closed off by parentheses, right? I used the last name, and I did it and I put it right next to the information that I used from him, right next to it. In this case, I used so much of the information, I went ahead and put it at the end. And so, since it's at the end, that means the period goes after the citation, not before. So I'm not going to put that period after the word tuna. I'm going to put it after the in-text citation. All right? So let's try something here. So if I were to write or to cite the Facebook article that you cited, it was the first thing that I had you cite, that article that was in the writing today. The in-text citation for that would be last name and page number. Why do you think that is? Okay, here's why. So, you're always using the last name of the author. You put a space right after just one space. And then you're going to write the page number where you found the info. Not just the number, just the number, don't abbreviate page. And then I'm going to finish it by putting it in parentheses. See, the difference between the first in-text citation and the second in-text citation is the page number. I just happen to have a page number where I have the information. If there's no page number, you're not going to put a page number there. You're just going to put a name. If there is a page number, you're going to put the number. Don't abbreviate anything. Just put the number. That's it. That's all you need. However, what if there's more than one page for the information? And maybe you got the information from over several pages. This is what you're going to do. This is what the in-text citation is going to look like. You're still going to use the last name. You're going to put the first page number. You're going to put that dash there. And you're going to put the second page number. You're going to close it in the parentheses and put a period at the end. If it's at the end of a sentence. If it's not at the end of a sentence, if it's right next to the information inside of a sentence, then you won't put a period there. Here's what I want you to notice here. This is daily 202 to 05. That means page 205. If it's in the same hundreds, you're going to drop off that first number and just leave the last two numbers. So for example, if this information was on page 502 to 505, I would put 502 through 05. So we've come to the end here of our presentation, or towards the end, but there's lots more places where you can go for information. This just skims the surface of things, guys. So if you want more information, a really good place to find information is by raising your hand in class and asking for it. But if you don't happen to be in class, if you happen to be in the library doing some research, the librarian is great to help. In addition, if you need more information, the librarian has amazing handouts for MLA. Those handouts are also on D2L. And they include how to format your papers. You may have actually gotten a physical copy of it during the visit to the library. So those are really great to have. Your textbook, which is awesome, by the way, really awesome, actually has an entire section dedicated to MLA. And it starts on page 470. You're welcome. You also have an online database, or I'm sorry, not a database, but an online resource for you, OWL Purdue, which helps with pretty much everything. They have updated their MLA 8 section. Just make sure you click on MLA 8 and not 7. There's enough differences between 7 and 8 that I'm going to be able to tell when you've misread a section, all right? And of course, the MLA Handbook 8th edition is the recommended textbook for this course. It's recommended for every English course in this department. It's the primary source for MLA. So above all else, that book will tell you what's what. You've probably heard about a website called EASYBIB, and you probably have used it. I've used it. I love EASYBIB. Here's the problem, though, with EASYBIB. It's routinely wrong. Yes, I know, it's super easy. You pop things in, and it does the citation for you, and it downloads it on Word, and you can download it onto your computer and put it as part of your essay, and everything's great. The problem with that is that it hasn't really done a good job in updating to MLA 8. It really hasn't. So I'm not saying don't use it. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that you are responsible for what's on your paper. So if you use EASYBIB and EASYBIB is telling you to cite something a certain way and it's wrong, I'm not saying that EASYBIB is wrong. I'm saying that you're wrong. And I'll mark it as such. Because by this point, you know enough to actually question EASYBIB and say, hey, I don't think that comma goes there. Or, hey, I don't think that's how that's cited. It looks wrong. And you know enough now to look up the answer, and that's what I'm expecting from you. Also, the citations in the library databases are wrong as well. So if you're in JSTOR, or if you're in Academic Search Complete, or you're in Credo, and it says hit this button for citation, and you hit MLA 8 and you copy and paste that on your paper, it's probably wrong. It's more than likely wrong. You can ask the librarian if it's right or not. She will say the same thing. All I'm saying is you know enough now to not trust those citations, and to try to find the answer yourself. So good luck. You know what to do. Um, there you go. Now, you probably do have questions, though. I would be very surprised if you didn't have questions. This is complicated, guys. Do not think that this is like the end all be all. We've just barely touched the surface. And I don't want you to feel that this is difficult, that, well, it is a little on the difficult side, but I don't feel like you are by yourself on this. Go ahead and take some time now, since we're at the end, to write down any questions. If you have to go back into the lesson to look at some things and you don't understand, mark where you don't understand, write down those questions. You can go ahead and email them to me, or you can save them for the next time that we're in class, and that way I can answer it. Because I guarantee that if you have those questions, someone else in the class has the questions, and I can go ahead and answer them. If you're hearing this before we go to the library, you understand that one of the best sources on this campus is the librarian. And she may have the answer better, or can say the answer, produce the answer better than I can. So she or he is definitely a very good resource. So whatever method you use, I would love to hear your questions. Go ahead and email them to me or write them down, and I will see you guys in research. Bye.